Attention.
All right, I'm Eric Kain.
I'm Paul Tassi.
We are the Two Player Podcast, and we will be talking about The Walking Dead because we are actually the Walking Dead podcast about 50% of the time, maybe more.
Game of Thrones isn't on.
Yeah, and we'll probably do Westworld and some other shows.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think that'd be a really fun one to podcast. Mm-hmm. We do some Netflix ones, but we binge them. There's no time to.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like I guess you can talk about the whole series in like a given week, but
yeah, if we both watch it all at the same time and finish, it's tricky. Altered Carbon was good though.
It was.
Yeah, and I liked Mute, even though you didn't.
Gross, no.
But
I can't even get into that. But like, I cannot believe you liked that. Like, it is genuinely one of the worst sci-fi movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a sci-fi movie, but yeah.
Well, it certainly didn't need to be.
I understand.
Sci-fi setting.
I understand why people didn't like it. Yeah. There was things about it that really, I guess they just spoke to me. I don't know. Go figure, huh?
All right, sure.
Yeah. So The Walking Dead, we haven't talked about. We didn't talk about the.
Yeah, I was gone for the premiere.
Premiere. Yeah, you went to Mexico, how was that?
It was fun. And I tried to watch the premiere in Mexico, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So tricky. I wrote about it just after reading a bunch of reviews.
Oh, you read the reviews first, huh?
Yep, I did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I couldn't actually watch it until I got back, but I got the gist of what happened.
Okay.
And then the article was just about how killing Carl was a bad decision regardless. So that's what I thought I was going to be able to watch it, and then I couldn't, and it was frustrating. So I'm like, all right, well, I know the gist of it. So, and Carl still dies. So
such a strange decision. I still can't quite get over how.
Yeah, and I feel like they're going to regret if all these other people start leaving, like if Maggie leaves, or if like Michonne gets poached, if she's like an A-lister now. And so I don't know. I will say that I have very much liked the last 2 weeks. I thought they've been very good. Which I
in comparison, especially.
Yeah, I've not seen 2 good episodes of The Walking Dead in a row in probably like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's true.
Like there was some interspersed ones that were okay. Like the Ezekiel one I really liked from the first half of the season. But these 2 were genuinely good episodes, even if there were like some frustrating components to them.
Yeah,
just how they were made, I thought was very good, and the questions they're raising are interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to take this moment to point out to listeners that no, we don't always just talk shit about The Walking Dead. We also give credit where credit's due. And I think that certainly for a lot of the people that comment on my reviews and whatnot on Facebook, they probably didn't like these episodes as much as we did. I still get a lot of people just, not giving any ground, just saying it's just as bad as before. But I really do think that there's been some sort of, I don't know, the dialogue feels a little more natural. There's not, okay, so one thing that's not happening this part of the season is there aren't any motivational speeches or those really soft face close-ups, shots of just like blurring between.
They've done a couple with Rick, but that's...
Well, they've had those. They've done that because it's a trick of the camera. They're showing him, but we think maybe he's crying over the grave or whatever. But it's actually he's sitting beneath a tree, like bloodied up. So I don't know. That's a little different. I can excuse that a little more. Although if I have to see another close up of Rick with the red rimmed eyes, I might have
too
to.
Much.
Yeah.
Too gross.
But overall, I mean, there's some weird stuff too. Like the title cards in last week's episode was a little
I didn't understand that because like they always break it up by characters pretty much, and like I thought it would have made sense if it was based on Carl's letters, where they were all. But then like Jadis got one, and they really nothing had to do with the letters except the very end.
Yeah.
Vegan, but I didn't really get the title card thing. Like that seemed like an editing mistake.
Right. Yeah, they just left him in on accident.
Yeah.
I mean, if it had been the letters or if this was just a normal convention of the show, I could see it working just fine. But just sort of to pop it in there like that was weird.
I feel like there wasn't enough time to actually do the letters. And I feel like the letters probably would have said a lot of the same things to each of the people. And there was no way to get the letters to everybody. Like,
right.
Like Enid is like kidnapped by the Seaside Gang, and like how are they going to get a letter directly to Negan? Like I thought Rick just like paraphrases the letter for Negan. He's like, my son wrote your letter. He says we should stop fighting, but that's stupid.
because I'm gonna kill
must
you.
must keep fighting.
I think that whole conversation with Negan and Rick was funny because it was pretty much like Rick saying, "I'm gonna kill you," and then Negan being like, "Now listen here, man. Like before you just go off trying to kill me, maybe think about all the stupid crap you've done that's gotten everyone here."
Yeah,
You
that's why
know?
that was a good scene because, like, I mean, Negan came off as like the reasonable, normal one, and Rick still seems like very unhinged. And like, I don't really think that Negan has the moral high ground. Like, I do think Rick had, the right to kind of defend his community, and like some of his tactics have been bad, but I don't know if I agree with the idea that this war was like totally inevitable or totally avoidable and it shouldn't have happened at all. Like,
Yeah. No,
Negan did just execute, people outright, and that's not really a way to
but
make friends. But yes, Rick struck first, and but the
Rick
point is
struck
he does that anyway. Like Negan killed all the men of that entire community, so it's
right.
not exactly like he's blameless in all this.
Well,
So
no, I don't think you need to say that like one is has the moral high ground or the other. I think that obviously both groups have done bad things and they're paying the price for that now. I mean, I really think that obviously Negan was a bad guy before Rick attacked his satellite outpost, but Rick really screwed up by doing that in the first place. That
this
was
is
a
the problem
very
with the
bad
show though,
idea.
because like the comic portrays this war in just a totally different light. Like the war just starts with the Negan like corralling them. They have like a dust up with Negan's guys, but they don't like just kill like dozens of them. You know what I mean? And so like
Right.
the comic totally paints the war in a different light, where it really sets Negan up from the start to be real pretty much the aggressor and the clear cut villain, whereas the way the show did it, where Rick acting as like a mercenary for the hilltop and just murdering a ton of people, and then like Daryl blowing up all the dudes on the road, like the pretext for the war comes across as totally different, because
Yeah.
when it's just Negan showing up and just executing Glenn, it's like, whoa, like this is a bad dude, like everyone's got to scramble. And but with the way the show did it, it totally flipped the entire narrative of the war.
Yeah, it really
So
screws it up too because it would have been more effective if Glenn had been killed based on
they
a
said
much
nothing
more
really. I mean,
fair,
that was the
yeah,
point, was
yeah.
he's supposed to just be an example, and he's not supposed to have really done anything all that wrong. It's just supposed to be a message. But I love how we were like, oh, we like The Walking Dead now, and then we just go off on a rant about
Well, yeah,
bad
okay.
stuff it did like a year and a half ago.
So the good stuff about the season premiere. I mean, I think it went on a little long with the Carl dying thing, but I thought it was done pretty powerfully, especially at the end
It
where
was, and like this is a show where all like deaths are always like horrible and like horrifying, where
yeah,
it's either people getting torn apart by walkers or like their heads bashing with bats, and like the way they handled Carl's, where he just kind of slowly succumbs to the bite and then has to kill himself. Like that was the one of the more. It reminded me of Tyrese's death, where it was like a
yeah,
really focused episode and like a really powerful kind of sad conclusion that left a mark, rather than just like, oh, that was gross, like, and terrible. I just feel nauseous. Like it was genuinely sad, and like
right.
even if I agree that Carl shouldn't be dead at all, the way they handled it was pretty good, I'd say.
It was. I was watching. I got a little emotional watching that. Just watching Rick and Michonne sitting outside the building, and then you hear the little silenced pistol shot. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty moving, and I don't really ever feel that much when I watch The Walking Dead these days. So that was a surprise to me.
I mean, they're
I don't think
doing,
it was.
yeah, I'd say they're doing a
I don't
good
think it
job
was worth it,
generally.
but
Yeah. Hmm.
you know,
But I'd say generally they're doing a good job of kind of these emotional moments, at least lately, where who would have thought friggin' this week that I'd feel bad for Jadis of all
I
people?
know.
Like that came out of nowhere for me, where it's like, okay, let's take the most hated character from the most hated group on the show and like somehow make her really sympathetic all of a sudden, like that. And they did it in like pretty much like a 15-minute plot arc. Like that was very impressive, and the way they set
Yeah.
that up with Rick finding her and then the grinder, and
Oh, that
even
grinder
Rick
was
kind of
crazy.
abandoning her, and it that whole sequence was just great, and it really, I'm worried that it made me invested in her character, and then now we're not going to see her for like 13 episodes or something, or like
It's probably
we
true.
just never see her again now.
Well, I
Um,
thought they did a great job setting her up for a position where she's going to want to take revenge, and then I thought, well, that could set her up for a future villain role. But I know that she has said flat out that that's not actually going to happen. So
yeah, even
who
if she's
knows?
not the
They lie
comic
though.
villain everyone thinks she's going to turn into, I still think I mean they have to have something planned for her and her community because they drop some pretty obvious hints about like, oh, they have a helipad, they have solar panels, they have rations, like
Uh
what is
huh.
this place? And that seems like it should be very important. And I'm hoping they don't just kind of abandon that thread. And I kind of do wonder what she can do by herself now, because like even if that is a military base, like what can you really do as one
Hmm.
person with access to all that stuff? So I mean, maybe
Yeah.
if she picks one side over the other and gives them access to the helicopter and electricity
Hmm.
and rations, that could be one thing. But now I don't know what she's going to do because, like, I don't know. I can't imagine her ever siding with Negan after that.
No.
Like Rick, yeah, abandoned her, but he didn't like murder people or sentence her to death essentially. So if she has
Yeah.
to pick a side, I would imagine she might come around to Rick's side eventually. But I guess we'll see.
With the helipad and stuff, you remember we saw that helicopter this season at one point,
Yeah, so
and
everyone
then
assumes that those are linked, and I would
you know,
assume they are because it wouldn't really make much sense for them not to be. And
is
I
it
mean,
possible that she has more than just those people that were on the outside? That there's like another base full of people on like hidden away.
um,
That she isn't alone.
maybe.
In
If
fact,
so, I don't know why she would have been like crying by herself in the trash heap eating applesauce. Like, if there were just
yeah.
more people like just around the bend, she could have just gone there. Um,
Maybe it's a different community that she doesn't even know. Well, no, I don't know. It
eh,
doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know
My,
how to
my
make sense
favorite
of it.
idea was the fact was the idea that they are all just pretending, and the whole thing was just a kind of a ruse where they did the speech patterns to make people think they were crazy, and they put all the trash everywhere to make people think they were like just living like scavengers, literally like their name, but really they had a more functional kind of working community lurking in secret.
Yeah.
The flaw with that is, I mean, they whatever they were hiding, I don't think they had access to weapons, because if they did, they would have been using those regardless. I would think like they were really adamant about making deals for weapons, so regardless of what else they had, that seems like that was something they lacked. Um, yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I get keeping it a secret, but like that also would have put them in a pretty good negotiating position that they never really used. So I don't really
I,
know what to make of it.
I am glad that she came out and started speaking like a normal person. I'm glad that that turned out to be a big act
An
rather
act, yeah.
than like the Walking Dead thinks that people would start talking that way in the apocalypse. Like that's a relief to me because it was it was just so obnoxious, honestly.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't
Uh,
have to deal with that again, but
yeah,
we'll see.
maybe Ezekiel will stop talking like Shakespeare all the time.
He hasn't yet.
It wears thin. Like
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't
guess I'm
need to
getting
do that
used to it more.
anymore.
And also, I mean, they tone Negan down a little bit too for
They
his
have.
scenes. So I don't know. If
Yeah.
they keep toning people down, I'm all for that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. So yeah, that the scene with Negan and Rick was pretty good. The scene Carl's death was pretty good. I think the one thing I really and then and the scene with Jadis was good. I didn't much care for Enid and Aaron. I just don't understand what they're doing in Oceanside. What's the point of all that?
Just really trying to
Why-
convince the women to help them fight, even though they don't have any of the women's guns, or like the women don't have guns anymore because they took them all.
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I don't really understand it. Like I get the desire to integrate them into the community, and it's always good to have more bodies, but like I don't know the whole like well the scavengers may have turned into something interesting. Like the seaside people just have still never turned into anything interesting as like a non-comic edition that was supposed to add something of value, but
Yeah. I
they
don't get the
just
point of
haven't.
them.
Like
I don't get the point of Enid either. What's her what or and I just what's the point of that character exactly?
well, at first I thought she was a wolf spy, which was
Me too.
wrong. And
Yeah.
then she essentially became Sophia from the comics, because Sophia didn't die in the comics, and Sophia just kind of exists as Carl's friend and like Maggie's friend, and she hangs out at the hilltop, and she doesn't do a lot, but she's like around.
Okay.
So
So that's
they're having
Enid.
her fill that role, but she just I don't know. She's another character that doesn't really have anything to do, and I'm not clear on what they're going to try and do with her going forward. I mean, she's the only teenage character on the show at this point, but so they could
Yeah.
give her some of Carl's stuff that he was going to do, but I don't. They just more or less abandoned her for a couple of years now. So
could they give that some of that stuff to that kid Henry, or is he a
that
comic
was
book
another
character?
theory I had. I don't think he's a comic character, but I mean, he's been trained by Morgan and Carol, and they're clearly putting a greater focus on him. I they could, if they do a time jump after this season, they could age him into a teenager, like an older teenager, and they kind of probably recast him.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if they will, and like if they're gonna bother to do that, why could have just kept Carl alive? But
Yeah.
we'll
Because of
see.
shock value.
Yeah.
You know what else was kind of weird was when everyone was, Carl was laying there dying, and basically all his friends that he's been hanging out with for the longest time just sort of walked off.
It was just
I thought,
Tara just like kind of nodded, and like no one else said goodbye except like Daryl, and that was pretty much it.
yeah, it's so weird. Like, and then Sadiq said goodbye, real heartfelt goodbye. It's like you just met this
Mm.
guy, and here he is giving you more time of day than Rosita. It's like
I have hopes that Sadiq will be a good character.
me too. I like the
He's
actor
done
so
really
far.
well so far in his limited scenes, and like I don't know, some
Hmm.
people you just kind of like or don't like immediately. Like I've never liked Dwight. I've never really liked Tara. I
Hmm.
don't like Jesus, but like some people I warm
Oh
to. Like I
God,
like
no.
Aaron. I like Rosita and Eugene, and then I like Sadiq. I think I don't know. He's one of the good half, in
I
my
don't
opinion.
like Eugene. Oh,
I like
Eugene's
Eugene
so
because I think
annoying.
what they've done with him is interesting, where they
Yeah,
put him
but
in a
he's
really
still.
morally compromised situation, which didn't happen in the comics, and I'm very curious to see how they kind of draw him back from that, because
Yeah.
he's like kind of the first real true traitor, like full on
Mhm.
turncoat, and they haven't really done that with anyone before, and as far as I can tell, and
Right.
so I like that. I think his mannerisms are annoying, but I think his arcs have been pretty interesting in my opinion.
He's overwritten. His dialogue is overwritten.
Well, yeah,
They
he's
they
another
they really
like
think they're being clever, but it's like
he's
shut
another
up.
Ezekiel Negan Jadis where he has
Uh-huh.
this manner of speech that's just way over the top.
Yeah,
It just
nobody
doesn't sound
talks
like
like
a
that.
human. Yeah.
People have like someone like Abraham had little flares to the way he spoke. He'd say some things, and you're just like, really? That's what? I guess that's
Well, he
your
was like the
flair.
right amount of that, I'd say.
But yeah, but
Close to it.
Eugene needs to be dialed back to that level,
Yeah.
and they're not going to.
Probably not. It's
He,
too late.
well, I wish you'd watched this the newest episode because
Yeah,
we
I
could
know,
talk
I
more
know.
about
I got
Eugene,
to
but
probably tomorrow.
just
But
just slacking off. I don't
is it
know.
Eugene?
He's in it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Well, now that I have screeners, I'll watch them all early. So
yeah, yeah. Now our Walking Dead podcasts are going to be
more
slightly
relevant, more
different.
timely.
Yeah, very timely because we both have screeners. I think it's kind of funny that you had never asked me to get you
I
screeners
didn't really think
before.
about it because like I'm not doing the reviews, and like I guess on
Right.
Sundays I do kind of like writing my articles about like what's gonna happen, like you know what I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah,
without actually knowing, because I feel like it's harder to write those if you do know what happens
yeah. You're
that
gonna have to
night.
write those before you watch the screener, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And then
So and then the next day I could just write based on whatever was happening or whatever I'd seen the night before. But it can become inconvenient when I like have to watch it that night if I have other stuff going on. So I am glad to
right.
have access to screeners. So thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. It is nice to have screeners.
I was hoping they didn't Google my my name in Walking Dead
Oh,
because I have so
they don't
many
seem to
negative
care.
articles. But
I mean, look at me. Look what
yeah,
I write, and they just like clockwork.
I think they just think
Kudos to them
any
for that.
coverage or any amount of
Yeah,
controversy is still good coverage.
yeah. You don't see that everywhere. Like gaming, I feel like places do get blacklisted or ignored.
I feel like we've seen less
But
of that lately, but
yeah,
TV seems
it
okay.
kind of comes and
I
goes.
need to get on Netflix's screener list because that would be
That one
helpful.
you kind of have to do individual shows.
Yeah, they like messaged me about the Punisher a long time ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, and then they never got back to me. So
Yeah,
I don't know what that's about, but
I got Altered Carbon.
did
Sometimes
you?
I just
Oh,
forget. Yeah. So and I got it. I realized I needed it, so I got it like 3 days before it came
oh,
out. So I had
interesting.
just enough time to
I get
watch
all the
like two
Hulu
episodes.
screeners for like I don't somehow I got on that list, but it's
Oh,
very
I got a Hulu VIP membership from them, which like
Ooh,
includes the
I
screeners
could use
and
that. I don't know
Showtime,
if I
and
got that fancy, but
yeah, I'll give you my contact for that. I got that because of my like everything coming to Hulu next month
oh,
article.
really? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did good with that idea. Those are
You know,
like guaranteed hits.
it's not the funnest thing to write about, but I
It
find like
works.
with you got to find your bread and butter somewhere.
Yep.
Especially like it's funny if you think about like our traffic on Walking Dead, for instance.
Hmm.
Back in the day, you could write a review and get 450,000 hits. Now it's like, okay, I might have to write 3 or 4 Walking Dead posts in a week to get that much, you know?
Yeah. It used to just be one, and now we're both doing like three. But I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. So,
There is
and
plenty
people
and it's
still want to
fun.
read. I mean, they still do pretty well usually. So
Yeah.
maybe not what they were
And Game of
doing, but
Thrones too, though. Same kind
now
of
we have a whole.
thing.
I'm so sad we have a whole year off Game of Thrones. I can't. I mean,
I
I'll write
know.
about it to some degree, but that's a bummer. I don't.
Hey,
I don't like
my
taking a whole
Martin
year off.
posted well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't like taking a whole year off either. I feel like it's kind of a mistake just from an audience engagement
Yeah, and then to come
perspective,
back with only
also.
6 episodes, like I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
get that they probably needed the time because they're filming essentially like 6 movies, but it's still a bummer.
Well, yeah, there's so many things we could talk about Game of Thrones and poor and baffling decision making, but
Yeah.
at least we've got Westworld coming up this year. I need to watch. Jessica Jones just came out. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
the first season of
I
Jessica
do too. I heard
Jones.
this one's not as good because there's no
Yeah,
Kilgrave or less Kilgrave or something.
Les
But
Kilgrave. Yeah.
I'm trying to finish that this weekend.
I still need to catch up. I haven't watched Punisher yet, and I know
Oh
you said
no,
that's really
what?
good.
No, that
No, I
was like my
haven't
favorite
even
show of the
watched it.
year.
I know,
Oh, I
I
love that
know.
show so much. Yeah, watch that
Well,
immediately.
I think I watch a lot of these with my girlfriend, and I think we're pretty much through everything we're watching. So maybe we'll get to that one now. We've been watching that Electric Dream show on Amazon.
Oh, I never watched that.
It's like Black Mirror light,
Okay.
you know. That's maybe how I would describe it. So
Gotcha.
it's they're hit and miss to some degree, but some of them are pretty interesting. And I enjoy it for that same reason that Black Mirror can be enjoyable.
Hmm.
Sometimes not so much. Um, I don't know if I'm going to write about it or not,
That's been out for
but
a while, hasn't it?
it's been out for a little bit. And then I'm trying to think what else looked good that's coming out. I don't know.
Netflix is doing a Lost in Space reboot. I don't know when that's coming out, but
Oh yeah, I heard something about that.
I used to watch that old show, but I'm sure this will
Maybe I
be
watched.
literally nothing like it. I finally watched Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah, I saw that you posted about that. I still need to post about
So I
it.
don't know if you read the article, but like I
Not
literally
yet.
I downloaded it in Mexico and then brought my iPad back because
Oh.
it's like Netflix, it's streaming on Netflix in Mexico,
Uh-huh.
but not
Uh-huh.
the US. And
Yeah.
then I kept my iPad on airplane mode.
Smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I did
watched it all.
actually I should have done that because we started that in Europe, I think. Or yeah, and I think it was on Netflix or Amazon or something over in France. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But then I ended up getting back here and it was too late, so I just subscribed to the CBS stupid All Access thing, which was a
Yeah,
huge
I'm really
mistake
trying to
for me to
avoid that.
do.
Like I already have too many subscriptions, so
Oh, me
it's
too.
can't
Actually,
add
that
more.
reminds me. I need to go cancel it now.
Yeah.
What did you think of Star Trek Discovery?
I liked it. It 15 episodes was a weird length. I thought it should have been like 10 or 12, but some of the biggest twists I kind of saw coming from a very far away. So when those happened, they weren't the best.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with Sonequa Martin Green from The Walking Dead. Since to tie back into The Walking Dead, I think leaving the show and doing this was a great decision for her because she really shines in the role.
She has an actual character in this show,
Yeah,
you know,
and
like with love interest
I
and
I thought it was interesting that she's not the captain. She's like, I mean, she was important and then she's like disgraced, which is like how the show opens. And she's pretty much like a no rank member of the crew. It's like she's important like for the plot, but she has no rank. So it was really interesting to see kind of the show do that for when usually it's pretty focused on the captain and the higher up people. So I thought that was neat.
yeah. So did you see the twist with Jason Isaac's character? Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring to?
I wrote a whole article about that.
When did you see it coming? Because
When they cast Jason Isaacs, that was my article.
really,
He
oh,
plays a
interesting.
villain. He plays a villain in everything, everything.
Yeah,
And so
that's
as soon as they cast him,
true.
and I'm like, this dude is gonna be bad. And then there were like
Yeah.
slowly hints where I'm like, oh, he's gonna do like extreme things to hold on to his ship. And then they did this huge turn where he's like really a bad guy. Like, sorry, this is all spoilers, but where they like did something out of, like they made him like a very unredeemable villain all of a sudden. And like there's this whole thing in Star Trek where there's all these different dimensions where like some characters are good and bad in different dimensions. So he could come back as like a good version of himself. Like I've heard that's a theory. Where he returns and he's not terrible, which would be cool because I think he was good in the role. It's just as soon as Jason Isaacs was the captain, I'm like, this dude's gonna be bad.
I think so. The post that I have had in a draft form for a while now is that he was a great character and that it was a mistake to make him an all-out villain and have to kill him off, because as a complicated, ruthless captain with both good and bad qualities, I liked that a lot more.
Yeah, I
didn't mind the twist, but I really don't. I think that losing him as the captain of the Discovery is going to weaken the show, because
that's why I think he's going to come back. They're calling it Lorca Prime. Like they want to find the original Lorca.
Oh yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that we're having a Flash issue here, where Harrison Wells was such a good character in season 1 that they have to find a way to bring him back.
Exactly that. And I guess this was one of my issues with Discovery as a whole was I didn't really like that they did the whole parallel universe thing so quickly. Like after like 7 or 8 episodes, this show is just starting and you're going to introduce me to like alternate universe versions of every character. Like I thought that was more of like a season 2 or 3 or 4 thing rather than halfway through season 1 we're going to suddenly shift to that. That seemed like kind of a weird thing to me to jump on that immediately. But
yeah, building into that longer with would have been interesting. Yeah, I think, and would have made that maybe a more interesting twist also.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's going to be hard without Lorca to make the show as interesting and as compelling. I do think there's other good characters though. I like Saru. Is that right?
Oh yeah, he's great. Doug Jones.
He's really, yeah. He's always in a role like that. Mm-hmm. But I really like him in that. And there was also some great sort of non-main story episodes that I really enjoyed, like the one with Dwight from
that was a great episode.
Loved that. That probably the most Trekkie of all the episodes.
Yeah,
and really, very enjoyable.
Like, it's weird. It like veers into super Trekkie territory sometimes, and then just sometimes it feels like something completely different. So
it's tough. I think sometimes. Well, this is the Orville got a lot of criticism for tone. It was having a hard time finding its tone, and I think sometimes the first season of a show can be tricky.
Yeah.
Like, because you want to do something new, but you don't want to abandon everything. And a lot of people are really mad about the Spore Drive and all this stuff. And I'm like, whatever.
Drive. I thought that was fine.
I like the Spore Drive. And I really thought that, what's his face? Anthony Rapp.
Yeah.
Did a great job as that character.
Yeah, I did too. He follows me on Twitter for some reason. That was before I even wrote about Discovery. I was like, this is weird.
That's random.
But okay.
Yeah, every now and then I'm followed by somebody that's kind of famous and I don't know why.
Yeah.
It must be a mistake.
Sometimes you look and they're following like 50,000 people and you're like, oh. But then sometimes they're not following anyone. You're like, I have no idea why this is happening.
Yeah. PewDiePie followed me. That was interesting.
Did he? He's definitely not going to follow me. He's like cited my articles like many times, like in anger.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, okay, so we've veered off of The Walking Dead into Star Trek Discovery.
It had a Walking Dead cast member in it, so it wasn't that far off topic.
No, and it's one of those recent shows, and we have been talking about cast members leaving for other bigger, better things, like Laura Cohen leaving for whiskey, whatever the
Whiskey Cavalier.
I wanted to say Whiskey Tango also, but it's Cavalier. So yeah, it's relevant. It's relevant, damn it. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Star Trek Discovery, really, other than a couple of things, I enjoyed it quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So, more than The Walking Dead. That's for sure. Lately, anyway. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We will be back next week with maybe a slightly different kind of Walking Dead podcast.
We're doing video games now sometimes, too.
Yeah. There will be a video game episode of this up as well in the near future. So, thanks for listening. Peace.
Are under attack. They are protected by the defense. break through.
They got me!
A new task.
Our soldiers are in trouble.
No!
Stop.
Ready and waiting.